Anyway, how can I not be a lemon brother when this is my administration, dog? That's right. We're talking about Pete Hegseth. A second signal gate controversy has hit the Pentagon. Ladies and gentlemen, folks, boys, girls, MBs, I talked about this yesterday extensively, but it bears repeating. We are back. We are back. We're so back. Why are you lemon, brother? I'm sour because I'm envious. Like a lemon.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth responding. The embattled Defense Secretary.
Fellas, can a drunk not also be a wife guy? Is the question I want you all to take home with you today. Okay? I didn't realize that being a wife guy was illegal. Okay? Who cares? Who cares if you, as the Secretary of Defense, are sending attack plans to your wife with no security clearance whatsoever? Who cares?
Just spoke, seeming to attack some of his closest former advisors and the media after we learned overnight that he shared detailed military plans in a second signal chat. This one included his wife and his brother. Let's get right to CNN's Natasha Bertrand in Washington for the latest on all these very new, very significant developments.
Good morning, John. Yes, we confirmed last night that Secretary Hegseth did have a second signal chat that included his brother, his wife, and his lawyer, in which he disclosed sensitive details about U.S. military operations against the Houthis in Yemen. This was around the same time as that first signal chat that was disclosed last month when the editor of The Atlantic was accidentally included in a signal chat that Hegseth had with other cabinet officials. This, of course, is different. It was on his personal phone, and we are told that this was a group chat that was set up as part of his confirmation process so he could kind of strategize with his closest allies.
Dude, strategizing with your wife about which targets that comprise of civilians, of course, to hit with your fleet is crazy. Now, I know that there are eager chatters in here that want to say, well, his wife is a Fox News producer. Well, I'll have you know who else is a Fox News producer? Pete Hegseth. That's right. Before he was the Secretary of Defense, he was also a Fox News producer. So maybe his wife can also get the same level of qualification. So remember that.
But he continued using that chat, we are told, after he was confirmed as Secretary of Defense. And ultimately, he did end up sharing information about military plans with the people on that chat, many of whom, including his wife, did not have an obvious need to know about these military operations. Now, Hegseth did issue his first public comments about this just a few minutes ago from the White House at the Easter egg roll.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter.
So two things, John. First,
yeah, this is something that people noticed here. I will have you take a look really quickly. Where is this sideburn? That's right. It's under the earlobe. Now let's take a look at when he looks in the opposite direction real quick. To be fair, I think it's just white hair. Like, I don't think he shaved it up to this point. I think at first I thought that was the case as well, but I'm realizing that I think it's just because he has white hair on his beard, so you can't really see it. Yeah, you see, you can kind of tell from this angle that it's just gray hairs, so it looks like there's no hair there.
So two things, John. First, neither Parnell, his spokesperson, Sean Parnell, his spokesperson, nor Hegseth there are actually denying the substance of the story, that he did have this signal group chat that included his wife, his brother, and his lawyer. They are instead blaming it on disgruntled former employees, which is the second point here. Dan Caldwell and Darren Selnick, two of the officials that Hegseth fired last week, they actually were some of Hegseth's closest advisors over a decade. And one of the officials that left the Pentagon last week, John Olliott, who was until last month Hegseth's top spokesperson, he is saying publicly in a new op-ed that he wrote in Politico last night that it's been a month of total chaos at the Pentagon. And he said it's hard to see Defense Secretary.
I don't know if they are actually interested in dumping Pete Hegseth, by the way. Like, I know that there is reporting from NPR and whatnot, but it kind of feels like there is an internal battle that's taking place right now within the Trump administration between different groups that have different interests in the region, specifically in the Middle East, where I think, especially as it pertains to Iran, I feel like there is a little bit of a conflict there. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like there is the kooks and the crazies who are ironically taking a more restrained approach to Iran. Not to say Hegseth is one of them, because Hegseth is just a fucking idiot, but there are more hawkish voices within the admin that say, oh no, just strike Iran and nothing bad will come of it. And then some voices who are cranks that go, perhaps we should not do that. Perhaps we shouldn't strike Iran. Ironically enough, the cranks or the new right coalition is on the right side here. Drop site is also reported on Hegseth being dumped potentially. That happened last term too, the infighting between different levels of crazy. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Mike Waltz is on the other side of this. You can see some conservative commentators coming after him. Yeah. They commissioned Brace for this tweet. Jesus Christ, dude. I saw this. Pete's PO. This is actually a banger. This is actually low-key a banger. I will admit that. Like, I can't believe the Democrats got a W finally. Holy Pete Hegseth, your agenda is illegals, trans, DEI, all of which are no longer allowed at DOD. Pete's POV. God damn, that is so good. That is, oof. They put alt text for accessibility. A screenshot of a blurry iPhone home screen. Dark woke. This is dark woke. This is dark woke, dude. Fact post. Trump's White House has reportedly started looking to replace Pete Hegseth with a second signal after a second signal group surfaced. Start the clock. I mean, this one is funny, but this is brutal. Like that one is like, haha, funny, whatever. This is awesome. This is the type of joke. This is the type of joke that you know, if I was funnier, I would make. I don't get it. Sorry, I'm a bit autistic. They're saying he's drunk. They're making fun of Pete Hegseth's alcoholism by saying this is when you look at your phone, this is what you see, blurry. Imagine Pete seeing that tweet, so it's extra blurry. Yeah, it's even blurrier. That's why he didn't respond to this tweet. Okay, so I said this yesterday. Number one, I am an unconditional supporter of leaks. I love leaks. The leakier, the better. Leaky faucet. Okay, that's what I want from the federal government. Number one. Number two, out of all of the federal, out of all of the organizations, out of all of the departments within the control of the federal government, I think the Defense Department is the best one to be run by an incompetent dipshit. I'm sorry. It's so much better to have an incompetent in charge of defense than it is to have a anti-medicine guy run the HHS. Okay? It's not to say that it's good, but if everyone is going to be an incompetent monster, I would rather have the incompetent monster be running the Defense Department as opposed to any of the other departments that actually require someone to be competent, because these are things that are going to stop plagiarizing Sam. Come on, dog. Do we really need to roll the tape on the 700 times I've said this so far since the Pete Hegseth nom? Why is it effing for some? It's not effing for me. Did it actually F? Big F no? What the f? I don't understand. When sometimes like a fucking sequence of Fs roll in the chat, and I'm like looking at my my bit rate, looking at my upload speeds, looking at the bit rate on the Twitch side, and everything looks good. And it's just always shocking. Twitch took a shit, not you. Oh, got it. Okay. But yes, as I was saying, I'd rather have an incompetent monster run the Department of Defense than an incompetent monster run the EPA or the HHS or the SEC or the FTC or any number of different regulatory agencies, as a matter of fact. And unfortunately, there are incompetent monsters everywhere.
Secretary Hegseth remaining in his role for much longer. John?
Yeah, that statement from the secretary right there in the immortal words of Ben Bradley and All the President's Men, a classic denial right there at the White House. Natasha Bertrand, thank you very much. Kate?
And just looking down, as he said, returning the Pentagon to warfighters, John Ulliott actually said in the past month, what they have been going through is not returning the Pentagon to warfighting, but just it says the Pentagon focus is no longer on warfighting, but on endless drama, that from his former spokesperson. Joining us right now to talk more about this is Jane Harman, the former ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, I recall you saying after the first signal scandal broke that it should remind everyone that complacency invites catastrophe, and now news of a new signal group chat and new controversy. What's your reaction to this?
Well, this would be a good news day to accept Hegseth's resignation. I mean, all the news is about this extraordinary pope that we just lost, and so it might be buried. I can't imagine how he survives this. His key staff, as you just reported, has been fired by him. Some of them were on the second call. There are rumors that there may have been as many as 20 calls on unsecured platforms. I mean, that is, I don't know what you call it, tradecraft 00.1. You don't do this. And I can't imagine that Congress will defend him at this point. I wonder if the president will defend him. He's embarrassing the president. So I think there are two questions. One is when he resigns, but the second one is who will accept the job, who is really competent, given this history and given the chaos at the Pentagon. Let's just look at what Marco Rubio said. He just said that this draft executive order taking away half his department, this draft executive order was in the news the last 2 days, is fake news. So what this looks like is cabinet secretaries don't make decisions. They are made somewhere else, Project 2025 or who knows. And I can't imagine that.
Pete, JD Vance killed the Pope to cover up Hegseth's shit. Yeah. That's blue and on. You just spoke that into existence.
Capable people out there who are Republicans who could run the Pentagon would want the job.
One thing we know, the latest this morning is coming from the White House press secretary saying that the president still has full faith in Pete Hegseth. We know with the president that can change quickly, but that is the first response from them on this latest signal chat. On top of this, you have a top advisor until basically days ago of Pete Hegseth, a former Pentagon press secretary for Hegseth, calling this whole thing a month of chaos. This is this op-ed that Natasha Bertrand was just referencing, and two parts I want to pull out. Number one, saying it's hard to see Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth remaining in his role much longer, to the point that you were making. And also this, even strong backers of the secretary like me, this is from John Uliad, me must admit the last month has been a full-blown meltdown at the Pentagon and is becoming a real problem for the administration. And just from your perspective, what does it do when a secretary's longtime advisor, his deputy chief of staff, the chief of staff to the deputy secretary of defense, they all get pushed out of the Pentagon in the midst of all of this?
Well, I recently chaired the Commission on National Defense Strategy. We said unanimously, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, that this is the most dangerous time in terms of national security since 1945. If I were any one of America's enemies looking at our country, I would think, this is my opportunity to do any number of things. Think massive cyber attack in the U.S. I worry a lot that we could have a cyber 9/11 any day.
U.S. Department of Education to begin federal student loan collections, other action to help borrowers get back into repayment. I hate that I was right about this, where I said that they would only abolish the Department of Education and turn it into a collections agency. The only part of the Department of Education that they would never actually touch is the collection side. The U.S. Department of Education today announces Office of Federal Student Aid will resume collections of its defaulted federal student loan portfolio on Monday, May 5th. The department has not collected on defaulted loans since March 2020. Resuming collections protects taxpayers from shouldering the cost of federal student loans that borrowers willingly undertook to finance their post-secondary education. This initiative will be paired with a comprehensive communications and outreach campaign to ensure borrowers understand how to return to repayment or get out of default. Dude, you know what'll actually help the cost of living crisis? Extra debt that the poorest Americans have to pay. This is certainly going to fix the situation. It's going to make it so much better. Yeah, now that Now that you also have an additional $500 to $1,000 that you have to pay monthly, let's say $300 to be nice, $300 to $1,000 that you have to pay monthly, like this will certainly help pay your rent. Very cool stuff. What is this? I will lead the breach. I will lay down cover fire. I will take the high ground. I'll expose myself to enemy fire to communicate. We must bring back integrity, focus, and put the warfighter first inside DOD. I stand with SecDef. Pete Hegseth. Yeah, that's what he was doing right there. He was leading the breach and laying the cover fire. You simply don't understand. He was ready to take it to his most loyal supporters who were breaching the halls of Congress.
We've already, in the Pentagon, fired a well-qualified 34-year in the military, 4-star head of the National Security Agency, who also headed U.S. Cyber Command. Just pick that one thing. And most of the qualified women at the top, too, who are doing excellent jobs, including being 4-star members of the military as well. Got to put that in. And so if I'm China, Russia, anywhere, I think I've got open season on the U.S. And look at what Russia's doing in Ukraine. Russia is toying with the United States and obviously toying with Ukraine. And it is an absolute tragedy to see a place which was invaded in violation of international law after Russia promised repeatedly to respect its sovereignty, suffering this way. Ukraine is still fighting back. Europe is going to step up and fight for Ukraine. But now that we have a casual comment from, I think it's our vice president, that we may not continue to pay attention to Ukraine, I think that's hugely damaging and really threatens U.S. national security in another way.
Yeah, the Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying on Friday, if the Supreme
they have to talk about our foreign adversaries. There's no other speed for the American. To talk about American incompetence on American terms alone is impossible. It's also ironically why so many people will constantly say, "Oh, Hasan, why do you always resort back to America bad? You have one speed, America bad." It's like, well, I'm an American. Yeah, of course. I'm an American, and I want to say America good. One day, I dream that I will say America good. But as it stands, America currently bad.